Yeah, I told him that was a good old-fashioned kicking, number one. And we competed, played our off in the first half, right there where we want to be. And then in the second half, we couldn't get off the field. Offensively, we turned the ball over, gave them their opportunities. Uh, for the first time, I felt like there was a couple of guys on the team that's attitude wasn't where it needed to be. And that, that's not what we are, not what we want.
Yeah, it's just painful at this point, folks. Arkansas losing 52-37 to Texas. You heard from interim head coach Bobby Petrino right there after the game with some choice words about his team's performance. It was not a great performance, especially in the second half, as they pretty much get blown out. I know it was a 15-point loss, but it was much worse than that. They were down by 29, as much as 29 in the second half. We're going to talk about this game, unfortunately. We're going to talk about just for a little bit. I'm not going to harp on the past for too long. We're going to look to the future a little bit. And then coming up in the second half of the show, we'll, of course, talk Arkansas high school football and go through all of the brackets and let you know what happened this past week and my predictions and how my brackets are doing. We'll start my show how we always do with my three big things. You see them behind me. Let's go through them. The two big turnovers really changed the game for the Razorbacks in this one against the Longhorns. KJ Jackson, a look into the future perhaps. Let me be optimistic a little bit, okay? And then the last thing, one last ride just for pride. And I'll get to that later. Let's start with my first big thing. It's about the turnovers. And we've seen it oftentimes this season. We've seen it in the last few years. If you're a Razorback fan and you've watched Arkansas football, you've seen them turn the ball over. And I think it was last year, every single time that they lost the turnover margin, they lost the game. I think there's been one time this year that hasn't happened, but that's it. It has not been good for Arkansas football. And it makes sense that when you turn the ball over, that's costly and you lose games, especially when you're playing a team that you maybe can beat. Look, Arkansas could have beaten any of the teams on their schedule this season. They've had close games. They've been in it for so much of the game time against a lot of their opponents. And they were in this game. They were in the first half. You heard it from Petrino there. They fought in the first half. And then they just didn't in the second half. So that was disappointing to see against a better team, against a Texas team that should have won and did win. But just another disappointing one for Arkansas. And really just it came down to the turnovers. The first one, what is Taylor Green doing on that play? I think we're all wondering the same thing. We've asked that question multiple times this season, multiple times in Taylor Green's career as a Razorback. What are you doing, man? And in this one, it was to an extreme. It was a heightened what is going on right now, right? It was what are you doing, right? It's a 3rd and 3. You have an opportunity. You're down by 11. You're still in the game. It's still a close game in the third quarter, and you just run forward and you just kind of fling the ball up. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And then the other big turnover, not the quarterback's fault on this one. KJ Jackson, I think his first drive of the game or maybe his second, just blindside, got hit. Ball fumbled by one of Texas's best defensive linemen or linebacker. I can't remember who it was. And they scoop and score, and then return it for a touchdown. And Arkansas probably was going to lose at that point. You kind of got that feeling. But still, they were driving at the same time. You thought maybe they have a chance in this game, but they didn't. They fumbled. Jackson got hit by the blind side. I believe it was Marion Harris. It was his guy that came around the edge and got to KJ Jackson. And that's different because I think maybe a big reason Marion Harris is on that right tackle instead of left tackle is because the left tackle in Corey Robinson is better at protecting the blind side. Taylor Green's a right-hand quarterback, so Corey Robinson protects his blind side so he doesn't get hit. Corey Robinson's a good offensive lineman. Marion Harris is okay. I don't know if I'd call him terrific at the offensive line position. KJ Jackson's the left-hand quarterback, so his blind side is to the other side. That's why that guy came around, and he'd been coming around, but normally Taylor Green would have seen him as a right-hand quarterback. KJ didn't. He fumbled, and I know it's silly to look at these little things, but these little things, I mean, that resulted in a touchdown that really put the game out of reach for the Razorbacks. So it was the turnovers that changed the game for Arkansas in this one. My second big thing is a positive one. It's an optimistic one. It's KJ Jackson. And I know it was against the backups. I know it was against the reserves for Texas and their really good defense. But it's nice to have an optimistic output on something at some point, right? And for KJ Jackson, that was the case. 200-plus rushing yards, had a great-ish passing touchdown at the very end of the game, had a terrific rushing touchdown towards the end of the game as well. Both of those touchdowns didn't matter. Most of the time he was playing didn't matter, but he showed signs of progress. So I do wonder going forward, and Petrino was asked this, are you going to consider Jackson over Taylor Green going forward? And he said, I don't know if I can answer that right now. I'm really not thinking about that. So I'm curious to hear what he says today in his intro in his weekly press conference preparing for Missouri. What will he say? Because that could be a quarterback battle. Not battle. I mean, it's one game left. I'm just curious to see what they'll do with those two quarterbacks going forward. Because Taylor Green's done, right? He's a senior. I don't think he has any eligibility left. He might have another year. He might. I don't think he does. I remember seeing some chatter on Twitter a couple weeks ago or a month ago about like, hey, Taylor Green should transfer to Tennessee after he gets done at Arkansas. I think he's done. So assuming he's done, how much does it mean to him to play in that last game? Probably a lot. It's his last college game, his last opportunity as a quarterback to go out there and show people that he's actually, he's skilled, right? He has some stupid mistakes, but he's skilled and he's terrific and he's fun to watch and he's frustrating to watch. He's both of those things. So I would hope it's Taylor Green. KJ Jackson got his highlight tape in this Texas game so he can go show it to other coaches and coaches can see it and he can go in the portal and go somewhere else. I doubt he stays. I just doubt anyone stays at this point. That's kind of the mindset I have when all the coaching staff is going to leave. So I would assume most players are going to leave. But we'll see. That's my second big thing about KJ Jackson. Maybe look in the future if he does stay, which I think could be unlikely depending on who the next head coach will be. Okay, my final big thing, it's one last ride, right? I mentioned the seniors. I mentioned them playing this final game against Missouri. That really doesn't matter. It just matters for pride. For these guys who really care about being a Razorback, and I don't know how much of them do, or if they just care about themselves, well, it doesn't matter. Just get a win. Like, just end it with a win. Like, that'd be cool. But at the same time, I don't really care. I care about who Arkansas is going to hire as our next head coach. Is it going to be Alex Golish? Is it going to be Eric Morris? Is it going to be Ryan Silverfield? Is it going to be, Dabo Swinney? There's so many options. And I know Pete Thamel, released those four, Kane Womack being another one of them. It most likely will be those four that I mentioned. Probably not Dabo, but the other four. It could be someone else. You just never know. But as for this team, and right now, it's one last ride, and here's what Petrino said about their last game.
Does the message just stay like keep battling away, keep pounding away? Is there a little bit more urgent?
There's not a lot left, the message is we got 30-some kids that will walk on senior day. And they got one left. They've put a whole bunch of investment into this game of football for their entire life. Let's do it better next week or one more week and go out there and compete as hard as you possibly can and, be able to come off that field and feel like I finished my career with the best possible attitude and toughness and commitment that I could.
Yes, hopefully Arkansas will do that going forward. Missouri, 2:30 on the SEC Network on Saturday. If they don't win, no big deal. Hopefully we'll know at this point, 1 week from now, maybe who Arkansas's next head coach will be. That's really what we're all interested in. Right now, we really don't know. We've heard things about every coach that could be available, but the truth is we really don't know. I don't know. I might find out moments before you do. I'm not that guy that's going to have the amazing scoop to tell you, it's going to be Ryan Silverfield. He's going to be the next head coach of Arkansas. If it is, I'm probably going to clip this and put it on Twitter. But it probably won't be. It probably won't be. That's the truth. All right, let's move on for the Razorbacks. Let's talk UCA. The Bears falling 49-28 in their last game this season. I think, double check here, they finished 3-8 on the year. Not a good season for them. They did announce yesterday that Nathan Brown would stay on as the current head coach for the Bears. And, they put together a decent season. They just couldn't correlate some wins. They were in a lot of these close games. I mean, this game wasn't really close, but they were winning by a touchdown at halftime. Winning by a touchdown at halftime against Abilene Christian, a team that's really good, one of the best teams in their conference. And then they come out in the second half, 3-and-out, 3-and-out. One-play drive results in a fumble. Two-play drive results in an interception. That was all their drives in the third quarter. So unacceptable to have that kind of offensive performance in the third quarter. Credit to Abilene Christian in the third quarter, touchdown. Flipped the game just like that, 42-21 at the end of the third quarter when it was 21-13 at the end of the second quarter. So big letdown in the third quarter for UCA. They weren't supposed to win this game. They're supposed to lose by 2 touchdowns, and that's sort of kind of a little bit, I mean, they lost by 20-something, but it wasn't good, right? This wasn't a great game. It was an okay first half. They looked good, and that was exciting. But obviously down the stretch, they couldn't get the win. Caleb Koger as the quarterback. I don't know what happened with his name is escaping me. Former Bologna quarterback. I don't know what happened with him. He did not play in this game. Koger played good, minus the interceptions. 300-plus passing yards, 4 touchdowns. You know, a couple of those came in the second half were his interceptions. Landon Chambers, like, credit to ACU for slowing down Landon Chambers and the UCA offensive rushing attack. They're known for running the ball. Like, that's what they've done so well all season long, especially Chambers. It's been like 8 or 9 games this year where he's had 100-plus rushing yards. He only has 26 in this game. So not a great game for him, but give credit to the ACU defensive line for shutting him down. Malachi Henry was terrific. You know, I hope he sticks around. 7 receptions, 142 yards, 2 touchdowns. I believe he was at Oklahoma before this, so maybe he uses this great season and goes back up to the SEC level or to the FBS level, because UCA is an FCS team. We'll see if he does stick around and UCA can get some better weapons alongside him. Looking at a decent UCA team for next year, but that's where they're at this year. A loss to end the season. All right, let's move on to UAPB. They also lose 44-13 to Alabama State. Their season also comes to an end with just 3 wins. Again, playing one of the best teams in their conference, so you didn't expect them to win. Freshman Garrison Davis getting his first start. Not too good, 86 passing yards. They ran the ball well, 25 carries and 133 yards for Jalen Jennings. He's been kind of the lone bright spot for UAPB this season. And 1 touchdown. D'Aver Robinson was pretty good. Another bright spot, but not a great season for UAPB. I do want to give a shout out to Javani Gibson. He was one of the best players, the best player on UAPB last year, one of the best players in the SWAC. He's now playing for Oklahoma, and he's now catching touchdowns for Oklahoma. He caught one of their 2 touchdowns for the Sooners on Saturday. The other touchdown came from Isaiah Satania, a former Razorback. So congrats to all the former Arkansas players that are doing well for the Oklahoma Sooners, a team that's going to make it to the college football playoff. But UAPB, UCA, they won't do that. Let's move on to the Division II level. Harding in the first round of the NCAA tournament, getting a dominating win. I mean, it's impressive, right? It's impressive that they did this in the regular season, that they were beating teams by 20-plus points in the regular season. But now to do it at the NCAA tournament level, that's even more impressive. To do it against the top 15, top 20 team in Northwest Missouri State, that's impressive. A 38-16 win for the Bison. They will move on now to the Sweet 16 to face off against Pittsburgh State. You see it there. Braden Jay, 14 carries, 77 yards, and 2 touchdowns, as well as Andrew Miller, 33 carries, 195 yards, and 1 touchdown. They dominated time and possession, as they always do, and they get a win 38-16. All right, it's now time to move on to the brackets. High school football talk, and let's do it. Let's talk about it. This is not the completed bracket. This is my bracket. A couple weeks ago on the show, this was my prediction. Now, let's go to the next screen here. Let's see how I've done so far on my prediction. That's a lot of check marks. I'm pretty proud of that. Not a perfect bracket because of what the Bulldogs did in week 1 against the Panthers, getting that win. But everything else, I got correct. Let's rewind and take a look at how things went for last week. Bentonville getting the win against Springdale pretty easily to advance to the semifinals. Conway taking down Bentonville West. That one was pretty close until the Wampus Cats pulled ahead in the end to get the win, setting up for, man, how often have we seen Bentonville and Conway in the semifinals? It's happening again this Friday night. Bryant just dominating Fayetteville. I mean, Fayetteville has a pretty good offense. I know it's been a down year for the Purple Dogs, but they've got a pretty good offense, and Bryant just destroyed them, shut them out, and they're on to the semifinals to face, I mean, Fayetteville has a good offense. Rogers has probably the best offense out of all of these teams left in the 7A playoffs. With Jeff Reagan and what they're able to do, they're really good. So how will they do against the Bryant defense? Once again, this is how I kind of picked it out. We'll see how it goes. These are for sure. This is the semifinal matchup we've got. I'm still confident that Bryant's going to win this game, but again, don't be surprised if Rogers keeps it close. I would be a little surprised if they pull the upset, but don't be surprised if they keep it close and then Bryant pulls ahead in the second half. This one I go back and forth on. I picked Conway, and I could go back and forth really on it. So we'll see what happens in the Class 7A. That's my bracket, how I've done so far in the 7A. Let's move on now to the Class 6A. You can see my bracket here. I have Greenwood winning it all. Here's my semifinal matchup. This one I just did 4 games. So let's go and advance to the next screen to see how I did on all my 4 games last week. All right, pretty good. I'll keep my perfect bracket alive in the Class 6A. Remember, I did this one after the first round, so I didn't pick any of these games. I did pick all 4 of these games, and I picked them correctly, so I'll take the credit for that. Sylvan Hills scoring 20 unanswered in the second half to take down Marion. It looked a little shaky at first, but they advanced here. Hopefully they'll make it to this spot in the state championship. How cool would that be? How cool would it be for Mark Kelly and leading a program that was winless the last 2 seasons? Now they're in the semifinals for the first time since 2020, but they've got Shiloh, and you might see Sylvan Hills hosting this, and they deserve to host it because they won the East. But Shiloh is a really good team. The only reason they're not hosting and they're a 2 seed is because of how good Greenwood is. And speaking of Greenwood, they took down Jonesboro as I picked correctly. Benton, a little bit closer than I thought against Mountain Home, but they put up a lot of points against Mountain Home, and they advanced to the semifinals. This matchup here will be at Greenwood, so we'll see what the Panthers can do. I don't know if they can really keep up with the Greenwood offense. Benton has a sensational offense. I just don't know if they can do it, but that's how everything went in the quarterfinals last week of the Class 6A, so my perfect bracket stays alive. I'm a little worried about this one, I'll be honest. I don't know if Sylvan Hills can pull it off one more week, but anything can happen. We'll see what happens. That's a 6A. Let's move on finally to the Class 5A. This is what my bracket looks like. Let's go and advance it to the next one. Let's put all 4 check marks there and see. Oh, I forgot. I missed one. I got ahead of myself. Yeah, that's right. I really trusted you, Greenbrier. I really did. The Panthers lose to a really good Lakeside team. I knew it was going to be a close game. I just leaned on Enoch Hassan and thought he would get it done. But credit to Lakeside defense. It's been a great defensive effort from them all season long. They get the win. They advance to the semifinals. So that's X'd out for Greenbrier to be Lakeside and Parkview here. Parkview with a narrow win over Harrison. They did not look amazing, but as the 2 seed facing off against a 3 seed, they'll get to face off against Lakeside. These 2 teams played a few weeks ago in the regular season. I believe Parkview came out victorious, so we'll see if Lakeside can get some revenge and advance to this spot right here. If I'm repicking it, based on what I saw from Parkview against Harrison, credit to Harrison, they had a really good game plan against the Patriots. I would actually change this, and I would pick Lakeside to win this game. But that's how my bracket went. I can't go back on it now. On the top half of our bracket, Robinson getting past Farmington to advance to the semifinals. That game was pretty close, and then even closer was Morrilton and Hot Springs. That was my upset of the week. If you remember from last week, I picked one big upset. It was this one, and it happened. So I'm pretty proud of my Devil Dogs for taking down the Trojans. And I think they kind of came back in this game to defeat Hot Springs. So Morrilton will go on the road to Robinson. Parkview will host Lakeside. Those are the semifinal matchups we have coming up in the Class 5A. We'll skip past 4A and 3A for right now. We'll talk about those maybe on next week's show. Let's move on finally to the Class 2A and show you the bracket that we've got there. Des Arc, Cross County, EPC, and Mount Ida, the 4 teams left standing in the Class 2A. You see them here. Saw the quarterfinals action from the 2A last week with Des Arc getting the win. Cross County with a pretty big upset over Junction City, and then EPC and Mount Ida doing what most people expected them to do, getting those wins to advance to what should be a fun semifinal matchup this week in the Class 2A. Finally, to my Lutties look ahead. Let's look ahead to the Razorbacks, to the Blue Devils, Thursday, and it is on THV11/CBS, whatever you want to call it. That'll be Thursday, 7 o'clock. That's going to be a fun one in the CBS Sports Thanksgiving Day Classic. The Razorbacks have a tall task against a Duke team that is, I think, averaging a point differential margin or whatever you want to call it of like 25 this season. Granted, they've played some nobodies just like the Razorbacks, but they've also played some pretty good teams as well. So Arkansas has a tall task in trying to upset the Blue Devils. It'll be Thursday, Thanksgiving Day on THV11. Well, that's going to do it for this week's show of Luttie's Look Back. It was a lot of fun. I know we didn't get to talking as much about the Arkansas coaching search. Hopefully we get to do that next week. And maybe here, you never know, hopefully we get to talk about who the next head coach is for the Arkansas football team. That would be pretty special. We'll also talk about some fun state championship matchups. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see you same time, same place next week here on Luttie's Look Back.